Hello everyone and welcome to this week's garden tour. If you're new here, my name is Mari and I'm gardening in Queens, New York City. This is going to be a combined garden tour of 2 weeks because we were away last weekend. We traveled for the holiday, went to this beautiful place upstate where actually I had my first garden ever. We went to my partner's family's house and we didn't have a chance to film a garden tour before we left. So this is gonna be a very good one because you see 2 weeks of growth, so it's going to be a big difference from the last one you saw and this one. And also, you will see what happens when you leave the garden unattended when you travel. I made a mistake to think that I didn't need to talk to anybody to come and water for me. At the time we left, we thought that was gonna have some rain in the forecast, but it ended up not raining that much and the garden really suffered. You might see back here that it's not looking too bad. This is after actually I have already give a couple very deep good waterings when I came back. Unfortunately, I did not take a picture of it as soon as I came in. My first instinct was to just run to the garden and water, and I should have because it is kind of crazy how different this looked. It looked, when I came in, everything looked droopy and dry, and I didn't have much hope that things were going to pick back up, but they did, which is very exciting. There's still some damage here and there that I'm going to show you guys that I couldn't repair. So it's interesting to see what kind of damage can happen if you don't attend to your garden for a few days. Actually, I was only 5 days out of the city, but the days were really hot and it had no rain. This is also a south-facing backyard and I have a lot of potted plants. Definitely the things in the pots here suffered more than the ones that were planted on the ground. And at the plot garden, the little space that we have just around the block, had very minimal damage. So there, because everything is on the ground, other than a few potatoes, they kind of didn't suffer very much, which is very interesting to see how different the garden can be depending on the conditions that you give to it. So let's get started. We're gonna start here at the backyard, then we're gonna very briefly walk to the front yard of my building where I'm also allowed to garden. And then we are gonna move to the plot and look how nice it looks in there. So can't wait to show you guys. We're going to start looking at these plants here in the pots. They were the ones with the most damage. They got a little bit burned, the leaves. This squashy was pretty bad. Now that I've been watering for a couple of days, the top leaves perked back up, but these ones are still very damaged and yellow and brown. So I have to just trim this. Try to get that done today. This tomato too has a lot of yellowing after it was very dry. It's coming back up a little bit, but also a lot of the leaves are already dead. This eggplant here, I thought it was not going to survive. It looked so bad that I thought it was totally dead, but the leaves are also coming back there. I don't know if it's even worth it to keep it alive or not. It's a little soft. I'm gonna take this out, probably take the whole plant out. Oops. The zinnia here really did a good job coming back. It was also all, the leaves are all drooping, but they are looking really good now. Other than this guy that's a little old, I have to deadhead that. And this squash here also suffered pretty bad. It has a little fruit there that I'm going to harvest, but I'm gonna go ahead and trim the bottom leaves as well. So not looking as lush, green and nice as the last garden tour you guys saw, but it's okay. Hopefully I can take care of it and it'll pick back up a little bit at least. And this cucumber here, I have a cucumber. My first cucumber in the vine. The top leaves are looking very healthy, but the bottom ones still have all that bug damage and now sun damage. There's another cucumber here on this one that looks like this. I think it was a bug damage and then the leaf was weak and then they got sunburned. But there's a silver slicer, a first one too. That's my favorite cucumber. Great size. This is a good size for me for harvesting, and I hope this plant kind of picks back up a little bit. Not looking super healthy, but I'm glad at least I can get one cucumber from it. Here on this side, on the green stalk, that nasturtium below there just didn't make it. I'm gonna cut it, take the whole plant down, trim a few things on this green stalk too. This celery that I was going to seed is all yellow. Some of the strawberry leaves got pretty yellow. And on top here, even the mint got sunburned and dry because of the lack of water. So a little bit sad, but hopefully I can make things work. And I harvested all the tomatoes when I came home. I didn't want to leave them in here for the animals. I will harvest the rest of it now. They all just turned yellow this morning. Later, and I'll take out all of these 3 little miniature tomato plants because they determined they won't produce any more than they just did. This bell pepper here got sunburned too. I moved to the side, but look at that. and I don't know, it's getting rotten, I guess, where it got sunburned. So I'm gonna take this out of here. I don't even think I'm gonna eat it. My goal is just to the compost. This tomatoes here is starting to ripen. I have already also harvested a few as soon as I got back. Everything else is still looking alright. Tons of strawberry. I gotta pick it again. Just keeps producing. That's really good. Oh, we have beans too. Now we have these yellow wax beans that are just time to pick. I don't wanna wait anymore to get any longer. Even though this one's still a little green, I'm gonna pick them anyway. Some more here on this side, so that's good. There's some beets still there that I haven't picked yet. I'll try to see if I can do it this week. But this green stalk here for some reason didn't suffer that much. Stayed very nice and green. Maybe it was better watered inside, I don't know. These peppers, everybody here on this side kind of did okay. This zucchini was a little droopy too, but after the watering it's coming back up. It just has some, I think it's spider mites, some bug damage, and started to see some powdery mildew. And I put some seedlings here on the table because they guys, I thought they were all dead. They're kind of looking like this, but some of them did die, some of them came up. So I don't know if it's worth for me to just plant them since I've been so stressed or start over. I have to think about what I'm gonna do with those. Those are mostly sunflower zinnias, and I have some basils in here. On the raised beds, look at that, it's looking pretty good. I really wish I had taken a picture from the day I came in because it was so sad. Everything was very droopy and a lot of brown. I didn't prune anything yet, but as you can see here, we got closer. This tomato plant here is probably not gonna make it. It's all burned on the top. This fruit's starting to ripen, and I am probably just gonna harvest those, cut the top off, wait until this ripen and take this plant out of there. This one over here, because the leaves are all drooping, had a lot of sun coming in, they got all sunburned. How sad. My beautiful Black Beauty tomatoes, they are ripening, but they all have this sun spot on them right now. I think we can still eat this, and at least there's not like a rot spot like in the bell pepper. So maybe I'll just cut that off and then cook it in case there was something inside, but that was really hard to see. I'm so happy though that the plants just came back. It doesn't even look like they were struggling before, but I did a couple very heavy deep watering on them since I came back, and I'm glad they recovered. This side was not too bad too. It's looking much nicer than that little corner. And this calendula here, I'm gonna have to take it out. It is full of some sort of bugs, and after the got super dried out, they perked back up, but they just don't look healthy anymore. So I'm gonna take this whole plant out this week too. Zinnias are looking okay. We have some tomatoes starting to ripen here in the bottom too. So overall, not too bad. And this nasturtium here, I'm also gonna just take the leaves down in the bottom. Oh, those beans completely died. They were looking so nice and healthy before I left, but this is a very shallow and small pot, so definitely dries out really fast, so they didn't have a chance. But they were starting to produce a lot of beans. Look at this, now the plant's dead, but they had a lot of baby beans on them that will not develop. So I don't even know if I'm gonna try to plant something other than herbs or something that doesn't need much space or soil. Otherwise, it just feels really bad that they all died. Things are looking okay on that green stalk up there, but I don't know if you guys remember. I mentioned last garden tour that I was going to plant some seeds on the empty pockets from the things that I harvested, but none of them came up because the soil was very dry on the surface, so I might have to re-sow them again. But one good thing about this green stalk is we have tons of beans. Look at that. Lots of beans on these plants already. That was really fast, right? Just planted the seeds I think a few weeks ago, maybe more, but it seemed pretty fast to me. They're already all producing. Lots of beans in here. Those plants here on the top are doing much better than this one here. It's getting kind of shaded by the stuff around it. I'm not very great at always rotating them like I'm supposed to, but the ones on the top are doing really good. Some of new things are picking up. This basil is starting to come up, which is good. I put some za'atar in here. Taking a very long time, but starting to kind of grow. There's some parsley in here starting to grow too. So we'll see. I'll just re-sow everything. And let me turn this. So definitely I have to take this cilantro plant out. Now I'm just gonna save the seeds for cooking and dry it out and use for cooking. And all of this space here now has to be filled up again. Keep the soil nice and moist for these days, and I'll put probably some more seeds again in there. Everything else is looking quite okay in here. It didn't suffer very much, just gonna stock up here. I think it's a bit more shade than those guys down there. They definitely got the hardest beats from the sun, I guess. They're not looking very good. This passion fruit here, apparently really like the heat because it grew like crazy on the 5 days they were gone. It's so much bigger and just keeps growing, so I think it really liked that it was very hot and a little dry. This pepper was very droopy. I was not sure if it was going to come up or not, but a lot of the leaves also turned yellow. It has a lot of peppers underneath, but it's coming back up too. I might lightly prune it just to give it a better chance. I'll take all of the yellow leaves a little later today and try to make this a little bit smaller. And this guy here, nothing really happened, didn't seem very bad. This tomato did get some damage. It was already kind of getting slightly sunburned, but it was really droopy when I came back. And this fruit was kind of soft too. It didn't look very plump, had a lot of wrinkles on it. It still has some, but I don't know if it's gonna recover fully or not. We're leaving it in here, we'll see how it goes. This basil is doing okay, and things here in this corner, I guess because they're slightly protected, even though they're in a smaller pot, they're okay. And this is mostly it for our backyard. Not too bad. The sunflowers are starting to look nice and full there. And I'm just probably gonna have to redo this whole part that got really dry and damaged. I might replant things, I might put other things in there. I don't know, but it is what it is, part of gardening. Sometimes not everything goes as planned, so we'll see what we can do there. Now let's take a look at the front yard real quick before going to the plot. There's a lot of sunflowers there in that corner, and it's looking a little bit droopy on this side too, not as healthy. There's not a pretty sunflower that came up there, which is kind of cool. The sunflowers in here kind of get into the end of its life, and I probably am going to harvest this head really soon. You can see the birds are already picking to it, so it means that the seeds are ready and mature, and the back is already yellow, so I'm going to put right there to harvest. Check this out. This is the mess the squirrels do when they actually get up a sunflower head and eat some. They just leave everything behind. These guys here are looking a little spent too, so I'm not probably going to take some out, but these other ones are still looking pretty and has a lot of bees around it, which is pretty cool. And I'm impressed how tall that sunflower over there in the corner actually got. Unlike the backyard garden, the plot is looking amazing. It didn't suffer much from the time that we were gone. Plants are planted in the ground, so they had a lot more water to pull out from. They're actually looking really good. I was so happy to come home after seeing the backyard and getting a little sad with seeing everything dried out, and walking over here and seeing that everything was fine, that it was beautiful, lush green, and had so much growth. It comforted my heart a little bit. So let's take a closer look on how everything is looking. I mean, just look at this. So green in here. But before I go there, let's talk about these potatoes. Those are the only things here in this whole plot that are in containers. So as expected, they didn't do very well, which is okay because they were already kind of dying before we left, and I kind of knew it was time to harvest them very soon. This guy is the only one that's looking really lush green. I'm gonna go ahead and harvest them. So we're gonna have the big potato review this week. Hopefully there are potatoes in there. Every time I do roast vegetables, a little bit weird because I never know how much we're gonna get, but I'm very excited to see. When I finished the last garden tour, I said that I was going to post a short video of me harvesting some flowers, because after I talked about the potatoes on that tour, I wanted to go ahead and pick some flowers too, but the garden tour was already too long and I cut that off. I did not have a chance to edit that. I got a very busy week, as I mentioned, and then we traveled, so that was hard to see from here, but when you walk closer, that's when you really can see a lot of the growth. This here, I took almost all of them out, and now they have lots of new blooms. That's actually a good thing, and encourage them to send all these side shoots, and in 2 weeks they have just kind of replenished this much, which is super cool. I love this. Those are the black and red straw flowers. They're great dried, and I can't wait to do fall arrangements with them. And actually, before I keep moving on going in there, I also tend to forget to show this back part of the plot, which is where grapevine is. There are 2 plants in here, and it is absolutely loaded with grapes. Last year we hardly had any, and then we lost them from the birds, but now there's so many forming that we think we might be able to get some when they ripen. Those are red seedless grape. This, my neighbor planted this, or his dad, maybe 15 years ago, and they're traveling. They were going to be a couple months away this summer. We'll be able to harvest them for ourselves, but obviously if they're back, we'll share because it's so much. It's very cool to see the difference between last year and this year on the production of the fruit. Now, if you ask me why this is so different, I have to be honest with you, and I have to say I don't know. I didn't do many different things in here other than putting some granular fertilizer by the roots of the plants very early in the spring. That could have helped it because it was the same fish bone meal that I put in the tomatoes. I didn't think that would make that huge of a difference, so it might not be only that. We also had a really wetter spring, so maybe they got more watering. I don't know. We just know that now we have tons of grapes to kind of enjoy, hopefully, once they turn. There's so much that we're probably gonna have to think of how to preserve them. Maybe we try to get a hand on making some wine or something. I don't know. We'll see. But there's a lot. There's lots of grapes. I'm very curious to see how many pounds of it we'll be able to harvest a little bit later in the season. On this side here, this fig, I talked to my neighbor and his wife said that it will be good to take out all of these bottom parts of it. So we'll go ahead and try to prune that when we have a chance. And going here in the shade, there's just a few flowers. They're not doing too bad for not being getting some sun. I gotta come here and keep deadheading them. They are growing quite fast, which is good. I'm just gonna walk a little bit so you can see how this side of the garden is looking. Just so much good. It's quite incredible. For me, being away for a little bit, almost a week, and coming back, I was like, whoa, that's so much. You know, looking at it every day, you can really notice. This amaranth here, it's so tall. Look, it's about my height, almost my height. The amaranth that we grew last year did not get this tall at all. I don't know what makes it. Maybe it was more, the soil was a little bit better, it's getting more sun, but that's huge. That's kind of cool. I can't wait to see the flowers on that. Probably the spikes are going to go all the way up, which is really cool. I like how it's kind of variegating, or there's some green and red. This is supposed to be the red, deep red variety, but it's showing some shades of red and green, which we really like. This side we have this eggplant that I thought it was not going to do anything, but it's doing amazing. It's the best eggplants I ever have here in the plot, and they were planted so much later, and I kept them in the pot for a while, so I thought they were not going to do well in seedling pot, but they're doing great. So hopefully have some good eggplants from them. This tomato here too, look at that. I put it in a little pot there. I felt bad to throw it away, to put in the compost, because it was looking so good, and then I just kind of stuck the pot there and neglected, and it's just been growing like crazy here. And it's a red kind. I think might be a super sweet 100 because there's some red fruit forming in there. These zinnias are all blooming. I think they only had buds when we left. I got a green one. This is the queen lime mix, so there's all the colors of the queen lime series from Joni's. So I got the seeds from, but I was very excited to try to see a green one, and I got one, which is good. I already grew this last year and really liked, and there's a bunch of the orange ones all around that I purchased individually. Calendula here is doing okay, still kind of has a lot of the same bug damage that the other ones have. The tomatillos are going crazy up here. They're getting so big. This guy, I need to stake it. It's falling over the flowers, but I'm gonna just attach to that mesh back there. And here there's the Armenian cucumber, this serpent cucumber. It's growing okay. Where's the top of it? Oh, this is the top. It's growing while it's slow, but we'll see if we'll get something from it. All the celogias here are doing good. This marigold is about to bloom. I love this little corner where there's some flowers already happening. This is the salmon rose zinnia from the Giant Binary series. It's gorgeous color. I'm really excited for that. And one more thing, we have our first dahlia. Look at this. Gosh, this is so beautiful. I can't wait to see this bloom. This is my first time growing dahlias, and I am so happy that I put it in here right in front of this arch. So hopefully we have these beautiful, gorgeous blooms right in kind of in the entrance. I can't wait to see how it's going to look in a couple of weeks, because there's a lot of more buds forming on that as well. This side here we have a little flower medicine bed, which is the feverfew. It's full of blooms. They were just about to bloom last week, and now they have tons of flowers. I gotta start harvesting them soon. This calendula here is getting a bit spent, so I'm also gonna have to be better. I say that every video, but I really truly do have to be better about coming here and deadheading them, and also harvesting the flowers to dry. This cilantro here is done. It got super dry. I took some of the seeds out already. I wanted to cook with them green, and now I'm just gonna clear this off and give some more space for this chamomile to grow, hopefully, and those two peppers in here. The squash here is looking really good. That's kind of taking over, which is good. One of the branches went out there, that if you guys can see behind the tomatillo, but I tried to put back inside. We have our first tomatillo. From my experience last year with tomatillos, they come out like this, but they could take a really long time to actually mature, so I'm not even going to expect that much from that for a while. This tomato here. This eggplant is also growing, but not doing as good as the ones in the corner. And the sunflowers that are planted here, only a 2 survived. They had a mesh in here, the metal wire, and that's full of weeds already. I took a lot of the weeds off. They are just came out stronger again, so I gotta take some time for weeding. Speaking of which, lots of the weeds kind of took over while we were gone, and I didn't have a chance to come and weed this yet. Cucumber here is finally starting to climb. How cool is that? It's getting all the way up there. There's a melon is getting there. I'm not just, let's see how it goes. This squash is looking good. This is the same lemon drop squash, the same one I showed that had the fruit, little yellow one in the backyard, and it's looking pretty healthy. The one that was here died, so I did sow some seeds before I left, and even though it was not watered, the seeds sprouted, which is good. So hopefully that will do well too. Still enough time for squash since they start producing so early. More tomatoes there. This pretty red zinnias just bloomed. I can't remember if they were volunteers or if they were the cut flower mix from Hudson Valley Seed Company, because I did not plant any red ones this year. Maybe it was from the mix, or maybe volunteered here from last year, because I had lots of zinnias everywhere. But I really love the way they're coming up. They look so big. They look very nicely doubled, so very nice and healthy. Super happy about that. This long squash from Hawaii, look at that. Look how much it grew since last time. Kind of crazy, coming all the way up here. No flowers or fruit yet, so let's see how's that gonna go. The pepper bed, not too bad actually. Some of them are kind of picking up. This jalapeno looks pretty good, and some of them are starting to grow. Even though they were a little stunted, it was not all bad. They are sort of going to give us something too, which is great. There's actually a little pepper here already. This is a miniature watermelon. It's finally starting to pick up again. Oops. I gotta come here and actually tie with a cord before it's strong enough to hold itself up. I don't want to damage too much. Leave it in there for now. Guacamole pepper starting to develop some more fruit too, growing a little bit bigger. Last year I had this in a small pot and they produced so much. They're a bit slow this year. And on this trellis here we have some climbers, the beans on the Three Sister bread. They are doing their thing in the corn, but they also came here and started to climbing over, and it's almost reaching the middle there, which is very cool. There's another dahlia in here that is hopefully about to bloom. This is going to be a pink purplish one, and all of the straw flowers, the yellow ones that I had all harvested, had sent new blooms too, which is amazing. This squash here is growing so much, it's kind of going into this cord. I was debating if I should have also actually moved it to grow up here, but since we have a couple cucumbers growing, I decided to let it take space there if it needs to. Maybe send some side shoots to come over here, but it's a lot of growth for a week. I guess it's finally starting to pick up. This cucumber is doing good too, but no fruit. What I think happens here is that probably squirrels or birds get to them before me, because that happened last year too. My neighbor also even thinks that maybe the soil has too much nitrogen and it's not producing so much fruit. I did amend it with high phosphorus fertilizer, the middle number that is usually good for root development and blooms, but we're still getting a lot of green growth and not as many blooms, which I think I've seen squirrels eating the squash blossoms here many times, and I think they might even go for the little female flowers of the cucumber and the squash too, so that could be a real problem, but we don't mind because we're still learning about growing them. All of the zinnias here, those are salmon rose, the El Dorado zinnia, and some of pink senoritas, and the orange blush are kind of getting a bit crowded and developing some powdery mildew. So it is time for me to come here and harvest them. So I'll probably make a couple bouquets again. In the back here, the corn is doing good. You can see how the beans are climbing on the corn here. That one climbed over that guy and is now climbing over that fence. But corn is doing okay. Lots of my beans have this, I think it's spider mites, this kind of damage here. Oh, look at that. This one here is produced. Oh, those are the dragon tongue beans. Look how pretty. It's so cool. I forgot that I planted them. I actually planted a couple in here with the pole beans just to see if they would do well, and here they are producing. Pretty exciting. I'm gonna pick them soon. There's another squash I planted from seed here later, and it's growing pretty fast. Here, borage has dropped a lot of the flowers, so there's not as many bees there. I might have to trim a little bit so I can give some space for these eggplants to grow. And see how sad they're looking, but look at that. We got a little fairy tale eggplant. Supposed to harvest them quite small, so not much bigger than this. And the other one back here also has some. So this is a good size, but you can even harvest it tiny if you want to. I'll come and take that out and see if they will keep producing, because these plants are just so tiny. They're not really doing good compared to the ones I showed in the beginning. And these are dragon tongue beans too. Oh, look at that, there's a lot of beans already. Wow. But this also is struggling. This plant's also full of, I think it's spider mite damage. I might harvest this, take this out, and try to plant something else in this space. Good thing that I can at least harvest a few eggplants from there. This calendula here, I'm gonna come around and harvest the blooms. I'm probably gonna take the plant out too. The leaves are looking the same as all the other ones. But this calendula, it's cold tolerant. I want to start some new seedlings and plant it again so they can go longer in the season blooming when it gets a little bit cooler. So harvest this to dry, and some of the seeds hopefully to dry too, and then I'm gonna start some new seeds to get a new cycle of it going in the garden. Now the most exciting part, for me at least, tomatoes. Let's start with this bed here. They're huge. A lot of them are really getting to a good size, and some of them are starting to ripen. I'm gonna go ahead and come over later in the afternoon when it's really hot and dry to see if they can concentrate a bit of their flavor and harvest a lot of them, even though they're not ripened yet. But I don't want the animals to get them. One of them already got eaten. I'm gonna show you guys that in the compost in a little bit. They are all kind of starting to blush. This is the purple heart. This one is the orange accordion, which is absolutely huge. I'm not really sure if you'll kind of get a sense of how big this actually is in the camera, but once I harvest, I'm gonna weight it and we'll see how big it is. And there's more growing all over the top now. Finally, this guy is struggling. I think I also probably could have got the same damage from the heat. I will let those fruit ripen too. I don't know which variety it is. I'm curious to see if it was the same one that didn't make it on my backyard, but I put it all these little markers and they just broke or got washed off. I can't find almost anything anymore, so I have to wait until they ripen to kind of tell what it is. And that black beauty there is looking good. No damage, no sun damage, which is great. Just looking very nice and full of fruit too. This side here, the Amish paste is doing much better compared to the ones on the other side. There's large clusters of fruit. There's any blossom and rot on those. It doesn't look like it. That's good. Okay, so hopefully it keeps producing well. That one back there is also blushing. That's the Ukrainian variety. This here blushing too. I'm assuming this guy looks a little gray. It's either the ananas noir or a Paul Robinson. So more tomatoes all over. This tomato here, the first one that had fruit, the big one where we're gone, I think my neighbor came and took it. I couldn't find it in compost or anywhere or on the floor, but it is starting to ripen too, so that's gonna also get picked soon. Same with these guys here, those back there. It is finally time, and the tomatoes are all finally starting to ripen, which is always the most exciting time of the year to me. So here in the compost, let me show you. See how that tomato has a bunch of bite marks? That's what they do and starts blushing. I don't know if it's a squirrel or a rat, so I gotta go ahead and try to pick them before the animals do. So I'll work on that this afternoon. This side, same, not looking as great, but picking up. Calendula is gonna go too. This basil is looking amazing. So beautiful. Time for me to pick to harvest so it keeps producing. Since I can tell it's already trying to start to bud and send some flowers. This midnight Roma here is just not doing good. It's not, I don't even know if it's worth it to keep it. To say that Amish paste is ripening. The other one that only had one fruit has a couple more in back there. One more, and this is starting to ripen too. It's a pretty decent size. Same with these guys over here. This is the one that had blossom and rot. I think it's not happening anymore. And those are Romas. They're tiny. Supposed to be bigger. Oh, this one has blossom and rot. There you go. So this still happening in this one here. Someone told me that Romas, Amish paste, or the Spanish kind tomatoes are more prone to blossom and rot than others. Oh, even that one is. Oh, it's so sad. So we'll see. The cherries here all looking great. Lots of sun gold. Gotta come around. Yeah, now what happens is, like, in the beginning you have one or two, and then you kind of miss it. It starts getting ripened faster than you can come get it, so, which is a good thing. But I'll come and get a lot of them later. The black strawberry, we already harvested some and ate some. They're delicious. So there's a couple more in the back there. They're ready to go. I picked actually the ones from this plant over here. I think there was a cluster below here. Yeah, I picked all the ones there. Only one green one left. There's another one to be harvested. The New Yorker tomato, it's starting to blush below there. And this is the berry crazy cherry, which it is kind of growing super crazy over here, very taking over. It's full of big clusters now. Oh, there's one ripe. Oh, cool, there's a ripe one there. Very nice. I almost missed it. Other one there too. That's great, because last year that one didn't do well in the garden. All right, so now is the time that we're finally going to start having slightly bigger harvests. Even though I'm going to harvest these tomatoes and they're not going to be ready, they're going to rest in my counter for a little bit, and I'm going to keep them, eating them as I go. The first ones that ripened, I usually have tomato salads, a tomato sandwich, or BLTs. But I love just having a tomato salad with some sliced tomatoes, sea salt, olive oil, a little bit black pepper, and chives and basil from the garden. This is one of my favorite lunches. If I do have mozzarella or some cheese, I'll put in there. But even with only the tomatoes, I'll eat it and be very, very happy about it. Hopefully, I'll find some time this week to do some cooking, or at least show you guys what I eat when the garden is producing. It is hard for me to promise things because, you know, when life gets busy, sometimes I get home from work, I'm really busy today. All they want to do is just put food together real quick and eat. And sometimes, for me at least, because I'm new to this YouTube world still, it's hard for me to like get the camera, see if it's charged, and set a nice angle, so we just want to go ahead and eat. But I promise that I'm going to try to make an effort. This is one of the goals that I wanted for this year. I named this channel Mars Garden Kitchen because I wanted to do cooking too, and that's what I do for a living. I've worked in professional kitchens for so long. Not saying that I know everything. The more you know, you actually learn. The more you know that you don't know, there's so much to learn. But I love to share a few things here and there for inspiration. I have already people reaching out to me on Instagram asking what they can do with the things that come out for them, you know, if they get a lot of cucumbers at once, if I know about fermentation, a lot of that stuff. So I'm going to try to make an effort to make a sort of a cooking series this summer. If you have any suggestions of things that you want to see or you want to learn, please put them in the comment section down below. I'll be super grateful. I'm also reaching 1,000 subscribers, so thank you guys so much for being here all this time. I do want to post more content other than the garden tours. It just tends to be a busy time of the year for us. Usually same thing happened last year. The summer comes, things get a little bit hectic, but it is also important that I learn how to make time, and I learn how to work with things that we're already doing at home, so you guys can see a bit of what we eat as well. Thank you so much for watching today. If you're curious to see how the garden was looking 2 weeks ago in the previous garden tours, I'm going to put a video right here that you can just click and watch. And please consider subscribing to the channel if you're curious to see how everything is going to keep going. Now is the time that the garden is really growing. Things are really going to start happening. As always, hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.